So I've talked about being contemplative, thinking about your life, what it was like, my life, what it was like before, what it's been like after being abroad 10 years and never paying more than $300 or $400 for 3 and 4 bedroom houses and apartments, furnished and unfurnished. This one is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and it had all this furniture in it. The dining room, the living room, all the appliances. I did have to get a washing machine. Hello, welcome from Frank and Angie's channel, where we discuss the retire early lifestyle, whether it's at home or abroad. Thanks for coming to our channel. So I've got a couple things that I've been thinking about. One of them is like when we were leaving the States 10 years ago, I used to have, I've always been a reader, and I've always had just lots of books, physical books, not digital books, physical, real physical books. That was one of the hardest things for me to let go. It wasn't monetary. I got my books used. They were used books. Now, when I had my businesses, I used to buy brand new books all the time. And I had a huge libraries of books that I bought and I spent a lot of money on. And of course, I had to let a lot of those go through the years too. So I figured out that it didn't make any sense to throw away money. So I just started becoming really good at searching out books and spending like $1 or $2 on them. Once in a while I'd get a real good bargain, like I got a brand spanking new Ayn Rand Gart's Gulch book. Some of you know what that is. It was brand spanking new, it was that thick, for 25 cents at a yard sale. I never got to read it because we left the States, and of course you can't carry all those books because I had so many of them. So the bottom line is, the way that I was thinking then is that, we're entering the information age, which I call the misinformation age. Well, guess what? We can replace these books with digital books. Or so the thinking, that's how it went. Now, I also have some expensive reference books. I had a Noah Webster's 1828 dictionary. Some of you know what that is. And even 10 years ago, I think used, it was worth $300. So this wasn't like a cheap book. And you usually didn't find it at a yard sale. But I had that book, and it was really difficult parting with that book. And before leaving, I did a quick search, and I found out that Noah Webster's 1828 dictionary was actually online. And I was thrilled. I was absolutely enthusiastic and thrilled about that. And I thought to myself, see, no problem. I can let go of my library, and I can simply go online and get a digital version. But there is a big difference between being able to only have, new digital books online from Amazon and having old physical books. And I stress old physical books. I really love reading books, and I still read, but I have to sit on the computer and read. And that's, as I get older, I don't enjoy it quite as much as sitting in front of a window and actually holding a book. It's just the eye strain on the computer is an issue. So I really enjoyed reading old books. For example, I had a Nikola Tesla book about his life. If you don't know who he is, he's the guy that actually invented television and radio and a lot of the things that were being invented back then. And then the book was about how the corporations, the big corps, swindled him out of those inventions and made them their own. It's like it's their invention and their product, but this is the guy that invented it, and he got swindled out of it. Very interesting story. I hadn't finished the book before we left, and I had to let go of that book. Now, that was an old book. You can't get that book on Amazon in digital form. A lot of the old books you can't get on Amazon, and a lot of the new books, they're good books, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of good authors, and there's a lot of good information. I like being able to access and read information from people that know more about a certain subject and what have you. But again, it's just not like being able to pick up one of those old books. So, and a lot of the books on Amazon, this is something I didn't realize at the time, are actually sales pieces for a more expensive seminar or something like that. So, which is okay, it's just that the book itself in many cases is just a vague overview of a subject. So it isn't like getting, for example, I had an old small plain pilot's handbook that I picked up for a couple of bucks at a thrift store. And I read that thing from cover to cover, and I learned so much. I learned enough from that book that I could tell if I'm getting in a small plane with a pilot, whether that pilot knows what he's doing or not. Like if you go to YouTube and watch I Should Have Been Dead or something like that, I don't remember the title, but there's an episode where these three young guys fly to Costa Rica to go parachute jumping or whatever it's called. And as soon as they got in the plane with the pilot, and you'd think, right, because you're abroad and these people are in business to provide these flight services, you would expect that they know what they're doing, because after all, they're in business, right? They're charging people. They're the ones that are supposed to know everything. But the minute they went up into the sky, I knew they were headed for trouble. And why? Because I read that small plane pilot handbook that I purchased for $1 or $2 at the thrift store. And of course, the story doesn't end well for them. You know, and that's the kind of thing that you can't get on Amazon. So, old used books for $1. I'll tell you another thing is that I tried buying. This is when we were still able to actually purchase things and pay relatively small fees to get them shipped all the way to Ecuador. Then once all of the foreigners started piling in because of the retire abroad media pumping and all the hype and the hyperbole, which is still happening, which I'll get to in a second, they changed the rules and made it more expensive. It's just opportunistic. It happens all the time, and it happens all over in these countries. And so they made it much more difficult. Matter of fact, they made it so difficult that I ordered some used books off Amazon. I even paid more for them, because you can buy used books, but they're the physical books, but then they have to be shipped. And instead of paying like the $1 or $2 or 25 cents at the thrift store, they end up costing around $4. But by the time you ship them, right, from the US to here, they end up costing $25. And you have to claim the value of the book. And of course, I put the value $4, $2. And it got flagged through the Ecuadorian system, because now they do things all differently, and they're just watching everything like a hawk now. And so they flagged him, and I had to talk to the guy and call him up and say, he was incredulous that the books were worth, that I paid $4. He thought I was fudging on the receipts or something. And I said to him, you know what? The only reason I even paid that much, the whole $4, is because I'm paying for convenience to be able to buy these online. If I was in the States, I would never pay $4 for an old used book. I always get my books for $1 or $2, and in many cases 25 to 50 cents. And I had to explain that to him, and he was quite incredulous and amazed that you could get good books for those prices. And yes, you can do that in the States. And so Noah Webster's was a perfectly fine book. I have certain words that I look up to see if the definition is still what it was in the physical book. Well, at the time when we left the US, it was the same definition. But guess what happened recently? I went back to check, and the book has been revised. And this is why I call it the misinformation age. We're entering into an age where things that are online can no longer be trusted. And I think a lot of you know that. And so I was really disappointed and quite distraught, actually, that one of my favorite reference books, Noah Webster's 1828 Dictionary, which gives you definitions of words, which a lot of you maybe don't care about, but some of you will. It's really, really important when you're trying to figure out certain things. It's for those of us that have time. People that are still on the workaday routine, they don't really have time. So people like us that have time, and we devote ourselves to knowledge, study and reading, which I have been doing since my 20s, I absolutely love that book, but recently I went to it and it's just totally adulterated and perverted to the level that is just not recognizable. And it's offensive. It's very offensive that a reference book like that has been totally perverted. And now the online version no longer serves me. It does nothing for me anymore. And I don't have access to the actual physical book either. So I'm left empty-handed when it comes to that. And the online stuff gets adulterated. And the other thing is that for example, when you're in the States, there are things going on in the States, but in the States is a big country, okay? So, what that does is it provides a lot of options and a lot of opportunities. For example, I used to live in California when I was 18. But after being there as a teenager that was just starting out, I decided that the place wasn't really for me. And the place was really wild back 40 years ago in the 80s, early 80s. It was really wild. Imagine 40 years later, you see what you see about California. Lots of people are leaving California. My point is, I left California when I was a teenager, and I never expected that I would come to a wonderful place. Ecuador has a lot of great things about it, great things to like about it. I never ever dreamed or imagined that I would because I considered this is my home. I don't live here as a tourist, and I never considered that I would have to endure the situation that the promoters, the opportunists, the shills, the RAM, Retire Abroad Media and Magazine pumpers, all of these people, as well-intentioned as they may be, and sometimes it seems like they think that you're picking on them personally. I live here, I have family here. I'm not just visiting. I have a beautiful, wonderful granddaughter here, which is a gift from God. My whole family's a gift from God. And so I'm just saying, I'm not just visiting. We did go to Europe, but we came back. We always come back because this is where our family is. And still, even after 10 years, we still are paying $300 for this 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. But if you listen to the shills, if you did things the way the shills and the pumpers want you to do them, they want you paying tourist prices for the rest of your life. Obviously, somebody benefits from that, my focus isn't them. My focus is that, I consider this my home. I hadn't really had the foresight to understand that you would have to be dealing with. It's like I left California when I was 18 because I didn't want to compete with all the people that had, humongous amounts of money. And then I come to a country that's supposed to be at a certain financial level, but then you find out that you're just getting crowded out, or you have to compete with the same people, people from California, people from New York. And to my mind, I don't understand why people with that much money would want to come to the cheapest, they're being told is the cheapest place. There are so many places where the life is reasonable. And as I say so many times in my videos, everywhere we go, we didn't spend, even though I just made an Italy video, right? And I told you how much the Italian government rips off the Italians and pads their bills. Even so, even with that padding and the really expensive utility bills, we still didn't spend any more in Italy than we do in Ecuador. Maybe it was about even, maybe it was about 10% more, not significantly more than you would think, considering how much a place like Ecuador gets promoted as the so-called cheap country and this and that. So really it just comes down to how people do things. And yeah, I live here and my family's here, and these places are small, so they get spoiled pretty quickly. So anyway, I thought I'd share these things because throughout my life, I've looked back at situations and, I'm contemplative. I think things through, and I'm fairly thorough. And yet, I still find that I have what I call blind spots in life. And so, one of the things that I've set out to do was try and attempt to avoid blind spots, and it's not as easy as you think. I mean, you see these people that ask on forums and stuff and online, and they ask people, you know, if you had to do this over again, what would you do differently? Well, that's me. I used to ask questions like that before I moved abroad, because, you know, people want to know what mistakes to avoid and, you know, what to be aware of that they're not aware of. Of course, the fallacy with doing that is that you think you're asking someone that you think you're going to get the answer that you're looking for. And unfortunately, when I was younger, I didn't know the difference between, you know, when I was in my 20s, you know, I made a comment that we considered Puerto Rico. Well, back then I didn't know about vested interests. I didn't give it much thought. And if I did think about it, I didn't really know how to go around them. Nowadays, we know how to do all of those things, and we know how to get to the bottom of everything. And you see in our videos, we get to the bottom of everything and we put it in our videos. So, you know, you get older, you get wiser. And so you sit here in your retire early lifestyle where you have more time on your hands than where you have plenty of time on your hands, and you contemplate these things, and you contemplate your blind spots and what you didn't know, and how could you have known? And you know, it's like you made inquiries, but you didn't get the answers that you needed or that you were looking for. So if I can help somebody else that's in that spot that wants the down-to-earth, bottom line information, that's why I make these videos. I hope I've encouraged you to seek out the lifestyle that makes sense for you, that you've always wanted. Thanks for coming to our videos, and have a wonderful day.